And we're back with another one, and I'm excited about this. Obviously, I'm excited about this. It's Druid, and obviously I absolutely love Druid. So there's lots of these sort of videos out there, don't get me wrong, you might have already seen one for Druids, but it's basically looking at items from Classic that are going to be relevant in TBC. So gear, you know, from Nax, AQ, Blackwing Lair, etc. Now, I'm doing this slightly differently to most. The aim of this is basically you getting into Karazhan really, really quickly without having to farm dungeons. So there'll be some bits of gear that you'll pick up between 60 and 70 that are comparable to loot from Nax, or even better than loot from Nax. Or AQ, you know, wherever. But they're the ones we're focusing on. So if there's a better item than one in Classic from one of the raids, then I'm basically going to say, don't worry about trying to get X item from AQ, because you're going to do this quest at 65 and it's going to replace it. So we're only focusing on the items that you're not going to replace, basically, until, you know, in Karazhan or tier 4, tier 5, whatever. Or maybe there may be some from like heroic dungeons, but obviously I'm excluding heroic dungeons. I'm basically focusing on you're level 60, you get to 70, you do your attunement, which, you know, entails 4 or 5 dungeons in total, including getting the Alcatraz key, etc., and then getting straight into Karazhan. So if you do like this video, once you're finished, obviously make sure you like, subscribe. Obviously come check me out over on Twitch. So Scottejaye87, name's on the wall. Obviously feel free, streaming most nights, all weekends. Gets a bit boozy. Let me make the screen a little bit bigger so you can actually see what items we're talking about, and we'll just get straight into it, starting with the head. So the head's a nice easy one, don't worry about it. Like, we're not bothered about leveling. If you've got a decent head like the one from Zul'Gurub, the crit head, you know, then obviously just use that, or whatever head you've got, use whatever you want while you're leveling, because you're probably not going to use Wolf's Head Helm while you're leveling, but you definitely will be using it when you're raiding, because yes, you will still be power shifting. So very important, make sure you get Wolf's Head Helm ready, preferably enchanted up as well. So Prestors, the neck from Nefarian in Blackwing Lair, changes ever so slightly. When I say slightly, it actually changes for the better. The alternative that you can get, which isn't as good, is actually Natasha's Choker. And this is a quest line in Blade's Edge Mountain, which you probably will do anyway. It's a group quest, so this is a good alternative if you can't manage to get Prestors. But ultimately, Prestors you'll still be using, you know, you'll be using it in Karazhan. So it's a really good neck to try and get hold of, so I would encourage you to get it. The Prestors neck in Classic, as it stands at the moment, is 30 agility, and then you get your hit. But it changes, so you get hit, attack power, and agility. So it's really nice neck, and yeah, you're going to want it. Shoulders are a bit of a tricky one. And the reason I say tricky one, if you're Alliance, you don't need to worry about shoulders. Just use whatever you've got, even if you're using True Strike shoulders still, whatever. You know, it's kind of irrelevant, because you get a Fell Embers quest, which is... It's in a dungeon, but, you know, you might even do this at 69. You know, you could do this before 70. And you'll get these shoulders, which are really nice. The only ones that you would want in Classic compared to these, if you're Horde, you definitely want them. The Mantle of Wicked Revenge from Fankris in AQ, you will definitely want them as Horde. If you're Alliance and you can get them, all well and good, but really, you know, you would replace them for this Fell Embers quest. But at the same time, even as Alliance, if you've got these, there's not a massive difference, and it will save you even trying to get these, but it is just a dungeon quest. You know, I did say you'd get them from 60, you know, these are all items you'll get from 60 to 70 naturally, but this one I thought I'd throw in because it is Alliance only. But overall, getting the Fankris shoulders will probably serve you well as Alliance or Horde. Now for this one, so for the back, you can get Cloak of the Fallen God, obviously, which is very nice. You know, you can see that it's very nice. And if you've got it already, happy days. I should probably start by saying that when I start quoting numbers, attack power, crit, hit, all of that, you know, we're taking into account survival of the fittest, which gives you the 3% to your attributes, and obviously Heart of the Wild, which gives you 10% attack power. Now, obviously that's changed. So Heart of the Wild has changed from Classic to TBC. So if you want to know about that, obviously check out my change videos. I'll put a link in the description and a little card up the top now for you. But you know, I'm not going to cover all of that completely, but we are involving all of those changes when we talk about these stats. So for example, 1 strength gives you 2.49 attack power with all of those bonuses. There's a couple of options before you get to 70. So there's a really annoying egg quest in Nagrand, and you can get the Delicate Poncho, which, you know, is nice. But I would probably lean more towards Cloak of the Craft, which is the BOE. I'm sure people will be getting these dropped left, right, centre on the way to 70. So I don't think it's going to be particularly expensive. But, you know, it nets around the same crit, but only 51 attack power. But then you do get the hit rating, and you're going to want to get hit caps. You're going to want your hit rating. So it's a tough one. I think if you can get Cloak of the Fallen God, then fine, but I wouldn't go out of your way to get it, because ultimately that Cloak of the Craft, you know, that's what I would use, because I would want the hit. But it depends what else you've got in other slots, obviously. But if you can't get hold of Cloak of the Fallen God, I wouldn't worry too much. You know, even if you was going in with the Baron Cloak, for example, it's a blue, you know, that will serve you well until you can get hold of, you know, the BOE sort of mid to late 60s. Now, I've done a lot of calculations on the chest, so you'll have to forgive me if I'm looking down, because I don't want to tell you any information wrong, and there's quite a lot involved with the chest. So let's say the Ghoul Skin Tunic from Nax. It gives you just shy of 100 attack power and just over 1% crit. And it looks very nice. You probably think, oh my, you know, I really want to get this. I really want to get this before I go into TBC. But I wouldn't worry about it too much. If you can get it, then great. But, you know, if you're like me, I've only come back to Classic to get ready for TBC, and I'm preparing my characters now. I know what gear I'm going after, and I want to go, if you're doing like a soft reserve system or something, you want to be soft reserving those items that you will use still when you walk into Karazhan. You don't really want to waste them on what's just a nice upgrade now, because what you can get is this green chest. Now, this green chest is, it gives you just over 80 attack power, so it's 20 attack power less, around the same crit from the agility, you know, to crit rating. But then you got 3 sockets. So if we was to assume you went 3, just straight agility gem, 3-8 agility gem, so you're going to get 24 agility. That's going to now give you another 30 attack power and another 1% crit. Well, over 1% crit. So meaning this green that you're going to get from a quest is actually better than your Nax chest at the moment. And this comes from Neverstorm. You will do these quests. You've got to remember, with the massive XP jump, odds are you're going to do the majority of the zones. And if you're like me and you're probably going to skip the majority of Hellfire, then you are going to probably be going into Neverstorm. And Neverstorm actually nets the most amount of XP per hour. So, you know, you're going to want to be doing at least your last level there. But other people, you know, don't get me wrong, if you're not that bothered about leveling quick, you might save Neverstorm to then net all that additional gold from the, you know, the bonus gold you get from being level 70. So, you know, that is an option. But me personally, I know there's so many bits of gear, and if you watch the Warrior podcast when Warrior TSW was on, he was even talking about, you know, the fact that you can get defense capped as a tank, you know, by just getting all these really good green items from Neverstorm. So I personally wouldn't skip it just for the gold. Get your gold somewhere else. But ultimately, for chest, don't worry about chest. Use whatever you're using in Classic at the moment. Don't go out of your way to try and get the Nax chest, unless you just get it naturally because you're farming Nax anyway, because you're going to get a green chest that's going to be absolutely amazing and just blow it out of the water. Now, the Karazhan execution braces from AQ, there's really not that much that's comparable. Not without going into heroics. Excuse me, not without going into heroics and, you know, crafted gear, you know, the crafted Primal Strike braces, for example. Yes, very, very nice, and they are better than these, obviously. But I don't want you worrying about crafting gear. I want you getting attuned and getting straight into Karazhan. Then do your crafting once you've cleared Karazhan. You know, you're going to be getting in there fast, and then, yeah, worry about everything else afterwards. But these, again, are just really strong. And I mean, there's only 2 other sets of braces that you could possibly get between 60 and 70. And I mean that, you know, there might be some greens that are half decent, you know, but not the only 2 pairs of braces I can find that are comparable are the Umberhowl braces, which is from the Cypher of Damnation quest line, which you will do. You will do that quest line because it's for your tier 5 attunement. Now, you can see they're not as good, obviously. And then there is another green set of braces, but these are from the same quest as the chest. And the chest is just so good that you wouldn't want to take the braces over the chest. So ideally, if you can get the Karazhan braces, definitely, they're one of the items that I would go out of my way to try and make sure I went in with, because they are really strong. It's going to take you quite a while to replace them. I would say you're going to be level working as a feral druid, you know, DPS or tank. You're still going to probably be level working anyway. So you will make the Primal Strike braces eventually, but until you make those, you're probably not going to replace these. Then for hands, so the hands from Satura, Battleguard Satura, are absolutely amazing. Like bonkers, actually, really good. So there's one set that's comparable from, again, a quest in Neverstorm. Obviously, that's where all the decent greens come from. But they've got less AP, less crit, less hit. They're you know, overall, they're just not as good. It's slightly less, you know what I mean? Slightly less AP, slightly less crit, slightly less hit. So it's not a big deal if you can't get these. But again, like I said with the bracers, these are ones that, what would you replace them with? Possibly T4, you know, so they're gonna last you long enough. These would be good to go into Karazhan with, to the point where you haven't even got to worry about attempting to get any other gloves. These will do you well. As I say, the ones from the quest, if you haven't got these when you're going in, these green ones are the ones that you're going to want to get hold of, obviously. But me personally, try and get the gloves of enforcement and keep them. Now, to say this belt at the moment in Classic is your BiS, so the belt of Never-Ending Agony, obviously it is nice, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't stress about getting it. You know, if you're really trying hard to get it at the moment, I wouldn't even waste your time. Soft reserve something that's more useful, like we've been talking about with like the braces or the gloves or something like that, because you've got a lot more options in TBC, especially from 60 to 70. You know, I'm not talking going out of your way at 70 to start farming, because you'll get the crafted belt, the Primal Strike belt anyway, so you haven't got to worry too much. But there's a couple of options that you'll get from quests, like ones for doing the Alcatraz key quest, which you need to get into Alcatraz to be able to do your Karazhan attunement anyway, so you will naturally probably do this quest as a group, because you're going to at least want one or two of you with a key, but preferably all of you are going to want to do the key quest at the same time. And then you've got the other one, which is just from the Cypher of Damnation quest line, which, as I said before, you're going to do because it's for your T5 attunement, but really you're going to want to get Scottejaye's girdle, because it's got more attack power, more crit, more hit. You're going to do the quest chain anyway, so if you haven't got that belt that you want, you know, you haven't got that belt of Never-Ending Agony, don't worry about it, because you're going to get better. So Leggings of Apocalypse, yes, they're very nice. Obviously, very nice, and you probably do want them just for in Classic. But I wouldn't stress too much about getting them for TBC, because you actually get a couple of really, really, really good, and I'm not even going to call them alternatives, because they're both actually upgrades. You know, you've got one set that you can see which has got hit and expertise, and the other set that's just got expertise. Now, one's just from a Blade's Edge Mountain quest line. You know, it will end up in a group quest, but odds are you're probably in a guild, and some of you are going to be around the same level and doing these quests around the same time. So doing group quests, well, you're not going to want to miss them in TBC anyway while you're leveling up, because they do give good rewards, and obviously they give good XP, so you're going to do them. And then the other set is actually still just part of the quest line for the Alcatraz key quest when you go back and hand in. So both of these, let's say at least one of these sets, you will 100% get. So the Shatrath Leggings, which is the ones that have just got the expertise on 35 strength, 25 agility, 27 stamina, you know, those are the ones that come from the Alcatraz key quest line, so you will get those, you know. It's without a doubt you will get those. The other ones, you know, I'm assuming that you're going to have friends to play with and do these group quests, so you probably will get those as well, and they're the preference because they've got hit on. But, you know, ultimately in Classic at the moment, don't worry about legs. You've got two great options before you even, well, when I say before you get to 70, obviously you've got to be 70 to fly, so you can actually get into Alcatraz and do the quest chain and get in Botanica and all of that. But what I mean is, before you walk into Karazhan, you've got two options here that you can get quite easily while still just focusing on that attunement. Now for boots, this is where it gets difficult, and it probably does, on paper, doesn't look difficult. If you was to look at BiS lists and everything, it's probably fairly easy, but boots of the Vanguard are really strong. So you're gonna want these, you know, as in, if you haven't got them yet, go out of your way to try and get them. But you either want these or the bracers, and I would argue boots of the Vanguard are easier to get. So the boots or the braces, the reason why is because both of the potential upgrades that you would get in TBC both come from the same quest. So the upgrade to these is the Fellbore hide shoes, which come from the Cypher of Damnation quest line. But you're either going to replace your braces from this quest line or your boots from this quest line. Now, on the basis that I said the Karazhan battle braces or whatever they're called are, you know, so good, I would be replacing the boots. In which case, if you've got to focus on one, braces or boots, get the braces, because the braces are better than what you're going to get from the quest, whereas this is the other way round, because the boots that you're going to get from the quest are better than the boots that you've got from AQ. So definitely get the braces. For boots, don't worry, use whatever you're using at the moment. If you've got boots of the Vanguard, then brilliant. Obviously they're going to last you till you're about 69 and you do this quest chain, because you'll probably want to get the XP for the quest chain doing your T5 attunement at the same time. You know, it makes sense. So, but Fellbore hide shoes, you will replace whatever you're using with these 100%. Rings, I'm not even going to bother with rings, I'll be honest with you, because there's just so many options. All the rings that you're probably using, you know, whether you've got Band of a Curia or Quick Strike ring or like whatever, you know, there's loads of rings, whatever rings you're using, even the, you know, Exalted with Broad and Ozdumu, they're all good, don't get me wrong, really good in Classic, but in TBC the rings do go up a level. You know, obviously you're going to get your Violet Eye ring if you want to use that, but even that's not amazing to begin with, and obviously you're not going to have access to that to begin with. But there's loads of blue rings from quests that have got like hit, agility, 50 attack power on. You know, you can get those from sort of Scryers or Eldor quest lines in Neverstorm. There's just so many rings you can get that I'm not going to sit here and list where they all come from. All you need to know really is whatever rings you're using in Classic at the moment, by the time you get to 70, you're going to replace them. So don't fixate too much on the rings. But again, even in Classic, there's so many choices of rings that you've probably got 2 epic rings now. Whether or not they're the 2 that you want, is kind of irrelevant, but they'll still be good enough, to get you to the point where you're going to replace them from these quest lines in TBC. So trinkets. Now trinkets, these are big. Now trinkets, these are what you want to focus on. So DFT is obviously really, really strong. Everybody wants it, who can use it in Classic, rightly so. And it's still really, really good in TBC. It's that good, they even made a rip-off of it called DST, obviously, which comes from Grawl. So you're going to want DFT and you're going to want Slayer's Crest, because there's in between 60 and 70 without going out of your way, there's only really 2 options of trinkets. And by all means, you can correct me, there is a third, but I've not included it. And the third one is actually from Terakar. It's a hit trinket, hit and attack power. But I've tried to be directly comparable, if you know what I mean, for stats and everything. Now, without going and doing that, the only 2 that you're going to come across really is the crit attack power trinket from Hellfire Peninsula and the attack power and use attack power trinket from Neverstorm, so that's from Kiranvar Village, so Core of Arkalos. Now, both of these trinkets are good, don't get me wrong, and the attack power trinket, when you look at it, is not that different from the Nax trinket. It's worse. We're looking at a Nax trinket that's actually better, than a level 70 trinket from TBC, but you're going to want to get them because they're big. These will last you. You'll probably replace the Slayer's Crest with the Badge of Justice trinket, and you'll probably replace the DFT probably with DST, I would say. So try and get both of these trinkets if you can. If you can't, then you've got a couple of good alternatives in TBC that trinkets that you can use, but I would be gunning to try and get both of these because they will last. So idols, I'll touch on it briefly. So you're going to get your Mangal idol from Hellfire Peninsula. It's just the little quest hub. It's a group quest, but it's a quest hub just before you get into Zangarmarsh. So don't worry about idols. Whatever idols you've got at the moment on Classic, you're going to replace it by 61, 62 latest anyway. So as I say, I wouldn't worry. And the same really applies for weapons. So weapons, if you've got like the Grobulus weapon or whatever you're using, whatever weapons you're using. If you're like me in Classic, you're not even bothered about weapons. All you're doing is farming Gnomeregan and getting MCPs all day, but you're not going to use MCPs in TBC. Don't worry, don't start panicking. But by the time you do Ring of Blood in Nagrand at 65, 66, you're going to get Staff of the Beasts, and that will take you into Karazhan. But ideally you want to get lucky, or you want to have a lot of gold and hope that someone else gets lucky, and that you can get the Staff of Natural Fury. That's ideally what you want, is Staff of Natural Fury, but it's going to be expensive. But that you will use, even once you replace it with the Staff from Ilhoof, you'll still use it in situations like long fights, or when you're at 50% mana, weapon switch to power shift and get more shifts for your last 50% mana, or if Innovate's on cooldown. It's got loads of uses where you will still use it, even if you've got a better weapon with more attack power. But ultimately, don't worry about a weapon in Classic, because, as I say, once you've done Ring of Blood, your weapon's going to be gone. There's no chance you would be using a Classic weapon much past 65, 66, and probably not before then, if I'm honest with you. So look, that was quite short, quite snappy. That's how I wanted it. I wanted to get through all the items. You know what you need to get now. You know how you can go and basically utilize some of your Classic gear in TBC still, get into Karazhan quick in a really, really strong set of gear. So if you liked, as I say, like, subscribe. The channel's growing, it's great. I've already said if we get to 5k subs before Christmas Day, I'm going to do a £100 Amazon voucher giveaway as well, so don't miss that. And check me out over on Twitch. Next, we're obviously going to do Feral Tank next. That shouldn't be much different to this one anyway, but take it easy.